In this video, you'll be learning about this topic. So you talk a lot in your book about the velocity of money. First, talk to us about just what that is for a person who's maybe not familiar with the term, and then talk about the trend that we've seen with the velocity of money here more recently.
Yeah, so money velocity, I introduce it in a very broad way where I say, imagine yourself in the 13th, 14th century using coins every day versus being able to defer settlement with a piece of paper. And if the piece of paper itself was treated as cash, then the ease of using paper versus coins meant that money could transfer from hand to hand more quickly than it could before. And so that's what money velocity means more broadly. It's how quickly does money change hands? How quickly do people transact with each other? Is it once a quarter, or are they able to transact every day because money moves more quickly? And having thousands of different coins at one time, all in the same place, is a disaster for money velocity. But deferred settlement and trustworthy bankers that just issue notes that say, I'll pay you tomorrow, or I promise to pay you tomorrow, make things move a lot more quickly. And so money velocity accelerated with the advent of paper money, of promissory notes during the 16th century in Antwerp. But today, money velocity has a more economic and a more quantitative definition where it's actually measured by central banks and there's statistics to calculate it. And we see that money velocity is slowing, and it still does refer to the turnover of money in the system. And we see that slowing because I do believe this broken interbank trust. And we don't see the lending, because money velocity really comes down to how quickly are banks lending money. And the lending is slowing because, like you said, counterparty trust is eroding. Every day it gets worse than the day before. And so that causes money velocity to slow. So I think that's one of the reasons we see that in the official statistics.
So when we look at velocity of money and we look at this idea that Bitcoin could be potentially stepping in and playing a much larger role moving forward, how does that impact the velocity of money based on what you just said?
Bitcoin is a settlement layer. It's a form of final settlement. And because of its decentralized nature, this form of final settlement can happen every 10 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And that is quick enough to build an entire financial system on it that moves a lot quicker down the layers. Because today, settlement on second and third layers takes a long time. It takes days to send money across borders and several transactions. But in a world with Bitcoin as the final form of settlement, and we see this with the Lightning Network, you can actually have second layer transactions that are instant at any value. And so it's really powerful. And it starts with Bitcoin as a settlement tool. It's because the final settlement is so easy to do that we can have lower layers of money that just move at light speed.
I'm curious what you think of this idea. So when I think of the velocity of money in the terms that I think economists want people to think, they want it to be this metric for measuring, if I pay you $1 for whatever good or service, how quickly then are you able to go out and spend the dollar somewhere else? And when I think about what's taking place today, where so much of the world's equity is in the hands of the few, those people that hold all that equity, there's only so many boats they can go out and buy and so many mansions they can go out and buy in order to allow that transaction and that currency to be put into somebody else's hands in order for it to go somewhere else. Most of the currency today, it seems like it's all just being capitalized into higher and higher asset prices, which is just sucking this velocity of money from taking place. So if there's this huge movement to Bitcoin where it becomes this new form of money, and now you have people that have tremendous wealth in this new currency, they're going to want to go out and buy equities, and they're going to want to go out and buy things that are generating some type of free cash flow, which then recapitalizes that entire equity and debt market completely. To me, that seems like that reorganization and that shuffling would actually greatly accelerate the velocity of money as everything kind of gets reorganized and people are willing to depart with their Bitcoin in order to own equity and assets that are kicking off free cash flows. Would you agree with that, or do you think that it's an extreme thought? I'm kind of curious to hear some of your thoughts.
I do agree with that. And I do believe that the acceleration of Bitcoin as a world reserve currency happens only if those investors demand their returns denominated in Bitcoin. And if they make the companies they're investing in denominate their balance sheets in Bitcoin, it will ensure that the returns, the dividends, will be paid back in Bitcoin. And so, several years down the road, I hate to speculate on how long that'll take, but that does seem to be a natural progression, assuming a much larger market cap of Bitcoin in the future.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next podcast episode and new investing resources.
What are your takeaways and thoughts on this discussion? Let us know in the comments section below.